Before I get started, I'd like to do a very minute survey. How many of you actually arrived here in taxi this morning? You don't have to answer. I know you're concerned about your privacy because you're connected to the Wi-Fi network here. We actually already collect all the information about you. But what if I tell you that in 20 years from now, majority of you will actually arrive here, COMPUTEX 2035, in a driverless taxi? Judging from the reaction from the audience, we got a huge taxi driver in the audience here. So anyway, Internet of Things will profoundly change the way of our life, and the NXP is actually at the core of that. So today my talk is really about how Internet of Things will change our life, what technologies that would actually will enable that. And we have a very, very clear vision that is at the core of everything of Internet of Things or Internet of Everything, that you need a security and you need a connection. And then this is what NXP is all about, what are secure connections to a smarter world. So this remote control doesn't work. This is not a representative of Internet of Things. It doesn't work. By the way, this is not using NXP technology for sure. All right. Wait a minute. All right, here. So you've seen this chart probably 1,000 times already. Everybody's talking about billions of devices are connected to each other. And then our vision is, yes, it's true. It's actually going to be billions of devices are connected to each other. If you look at the trend of those connected devices, and then year 2020, you can see all the numbers anywhere from 20 billion to actually to 80 billion, probably to 200 billion devices that connected to each other. One of the things that you need to pay attention to is that it's not only the mobile phone or the PC, but if you look at the application of the so-called things that are going to be connected, there actually covers many, many aspects, a lot more aspects of our own daily lives, being the utility and the energy, being an automotive and healthcare, as well as, of course, in today's electronic components, with the exception, of course, on this remote control, and then also your smart buildings, right? So a couple of things that we have to remember, and if you walk away today from here, that is, it is happening. It is happening in big time, all right? And as I'm going to mention later, majority of companies still have not figured out how to make money in this market yet, despite all the hypes in the market. Now, why is that, you're asking? Why is it happening right now? Why is it not happening 10 years from now or 10 years ago? If you look at the mega trends here, that cities is only covered 2% of the Earth's surfaces. And Taipei is one of the mega cities on the Earth, of course. But city houses more than 50% of the world population. And the city consumes 75% of global energy. And the cities are responsible for 80% of global carbon emissions. If you look at these numbers, it makes you wonder, where should we focus our effort to make this as more sustainable? This obviously is not sustainable with all the pollutions, with the global warmings and everything. And it really that requires disruptive technologies or new way of living in order to make our Earth more sustainable and also improve our quality of life. So that we are focusing on a few things. That is mobility, energy, and health. And then this is what the Internet of Things is all about as well. That is to make sure that we all connect with each other, that things are connected with each other, to make decisions autonomously, and so that we can live ever more efficiently and make this trend sustainable. All right. So the new hyper-connected world, as I said, that everything, that every place are going to be connected. you can see a PC with all these devices, and in your clothing, the previous speakers are talking about many, many examples of things that are going to be connected. But as I said, one of the things we need to pay attention to is the majority of the companies still have not figured out a way to make money in this market yet, while ARM being one of the exceptions, actually. Because right, and ARM is probably going to be in majority of those nodes. But what we are describing here is that what we call the multi-billion mass market of niches. So in other words, that the market segment is going to be so fine and it's so fragmented. In order to make money in those things, in order to make money through the scales, you have to figure out a way to aggregate those markets. You have to figure out a way how to achieve a scale. And I just use the example of ARM. Obviously, NXP is one of the other companies that is not as famous as ARM, but nevertheless, we believe that we figured out a way to make money in this market. That is connectivity and security. So if you look at this, it's one of the disadvantages of being later speakers that you're going to show this slide probably a couple of times. But nevertheless, since this is so important that I can repeat it one more time. That is that if you look at the electronics industry, we go from the standalone devices and then to connected devices always on, such as our old-fashioned telephone, and then to on-demand cooperative systems like the thing that we have right now. So one of the key definitions of Internet of Things is autonomous connectivity, autonomous decision-making pattern, as well as a criticality of connections. So we talked about this driverless cars, right? Imagine the connection failed. In order to have a driverless cars, that you have to process more than 3,000 secured, connected, secured information in 1 second. Imagine one of those information failed. One of those connection failed. We're probably not going to have the COMPUTEX meeting here. We're probably going to have this meeting in hospital. So you can see that this becomes ever more critical that we have a very secure connections. Security means two things. One is reliability. It means that when you need to connect it to something, you can connect it right now. And also that nobody else can tamper with your connections. So these are the things that NXP is representing. Next, please. So human interface is a lot better. All right, thank you. So our marketing director already reminded me, since we spent so much money on this COMPUTEX, that we have to show something about NXP. So as I said, that NXP is, we believe, all right, is completely unbiased opinion, of course. And the NXP is one of the few companies where they figured out that how to aggregate this market and how to really make a sensible business out of this Internet things. So if you look at this, what are the key technologies? What are the key technologies in IoT? You can see that convenient, reliable, and secure connections. If you are not connected with each other, then there will be no Internet of Things. Right? So that is very clear. And then the other thing, which is a little bit more technical, however, it is very intuitive, that is, everything needs to be ultra low power. And because that lots of those things have got to be autonomously and connected with each other, but also sustainable. And then most of you probably see the supermarket nowadays are using as a price tag, electronic price tag. Imagine if you want to change the battery of those price tag. That would be tens of thousands of those price tag per store. It's a huge amount of money. So once you put in there, it's there. It will never be changed in our lifetime anyway. So the other thing is that complete the hardware and the software solutions. Because you're now dealing with things, dealing with the consumers, dealing with the user that are not very technical. And imagine that if you ask regular household grandma and grandpa to set up a smart home system. It has to be very, very easy. It has to be very, very reliable. It has to work every time. So when we say that complete solution for hardware and software are very critical, and most of the critical things, it has to have a trusted security. So whatever that you do, if you don't have a security, you won't do it. Just like, I just revealed one of the secrets that all your data, personal data, already been collected because of the Wi-Fi. If you knew that, you probably won't even connect to this Wi-Fi today, right? So that is probably the most important things. Next, please. Now, again, since I'm R&D, I'm obligated to say some nice words about NXP R&D. We actually is one of the, I would say, this has the strongest R&D teams in our industry. We spend about $800 million a year on R&D. And we have 3,300 engineers, globally, and we have 11,000 patents, and focus on analog mixed signal portfolios. But the key things is that we spend huge amount of money on security. So if you don't remember anything after this meeting, when you think about NXP, you think about security, or you care about security, think of it NXP. That's all. And what are the key technology challenges? All right, so for some of you, they're interested in, oops. So you can see the Internet of Things still at its infancy. So as I said again and again, that the reliability and the dependability, right? Mission critical. You cannot afford to fail. Some of you use Wi-Fi at home. I'm sure that you have a very frustrating experience at home that is constantly get disconnected. But probably not too many of you know how many % of the time your PC, your mobile phones are actually connected to the Wi-Fi. Even it shows the little symbols there. 20%. Only 20% of the time your gizmos, your devices are actually connected to the home router. Imagine that if you're driving a car or the car is driving you, on the road, they're only connected 20% of the time. And then, by the way, it will take 2 minutes to reconnect it. What would happen in this world? So in order to connect to the traffic light, the infrastructures in the car, some of you may already drove this Audi A7. And it has a lot of those features. The key feature is connected with the car in front of you, with the road, and then actually make some safety decisions for you. Right? So the fact that some of the things that you mistaken the gas pedal with the brake, it will never happen in an A7. But it has to be connected all the time, close to 100%. It has to connect within microsecond as opposed to minutes. All of that is reliability and dependability. Interoperability. And then we can see that lots of standards, lots of technologies, and they are just simply not working with each other. You buy this brand phones that are just not connected with the other brand phones only through your cellular network. But if you say, hey, I got this very cool Bluetooth and may or may not be connected to that one, that obviously becomes a problem. So very, very critical, that is the interoperability, that it doesn't really matter where you buy your things, what system they use, they will working together seamlessly. Security. I just cannot emphasize more and more. I would even suggest to our industry we change the security words to NXP, by the way. So if you remember that would be great. Autonomous power. As I said again and again that the key thing for Internet of Things work as a system is low power. And then also, if you go any step further, that is the power harvesting. So in other words, that you have it you actually have it in the pocket as example of a power energy harvesting your UU car. And when you go to the MRT stations, there's no battery in there. So actually harvesting the battery power from the station and then to your car so your car can work. So that is the other example is that in the future, the winds, the energies, and the light, and then even your breathe will actually be harvested as very, very necessary power to power the Internet of Things. So the last thing is economy. Why I said the economy is not important. Yesterday when BBC journalists asked me the question, why Internet of Things is still not happening as fast as it should? As I said, one of the key things is that we are not at the cost point yet. If you're too expensive, if your smart light costs us $100 a piece, nobody will buy you. only when it comes to the cost point, the consumer can see the benefit outweighs the cost that they have to spend, then Internet of Things will happen. So, next, please. Next, please. So, since we're all right. So, I'm sure all of you have visited NXP booths in Nangang Exhibition Hall, probably 3 times, since it's so important. And you are probably sick of heard about words NFC. So I'm not going to talk about NFC today. So the reason I'm choosing some of the examples are called visual eye connection is that there are many, many ways of connecting with each other. NFC being one. And by the way, all of you have NFC in your smartphone nowadays, almost 100%. There's Wi-Fi, everybody knows. There's Bluetooth, everybody knows. Everybody probably knows the Zigbees and everything, RF connections. But should we expand our intelligence to say, is there any other way to connect? Is there any demand to connect even further? For example, visual eye connection. So in other words, use this visual eye to connect with each other. Now, we all use a GPS. They use a satellite signal to connect with you, to define where you are in terms of where your car is or where you specifically stands. But once you go into the room, the satellite signal simply doesn't work. But also, there's another problem. For satellite signal to work, the precision is usually about 1 meter or maybe even 2 meters. Well, I don't know about you. Every time I do vacuum things at home, my wife is always picking on me and say, you missed the spot, you missed that spot. And some of you may have this iRobots at home. Imagine that iRobots would say, hey, my resolution is only 2 meters, and so as long as I clean this little spot and then there's a 2 meter squares, I will consider it clean. You're going to have an endless war at home. So what this visual eye connections can do is to pinpoint your position as low as 1 centimeter. So I'm just using that example to open your eyes to say there are many, many other ways to connect with each other other than just RF technology. And this is something we also been working on. And next please. The other one is ultrasound. And why we picked the ultrasound as an example, as I just mentioned, there is a cost point. It has to be very inexpensive for consumer to use that. And then, by the way, you already have those devices at your mobile phone, what we call audio speaker and microphone. If you can extend the use of that, use the ultrasound to purposely to control your TV, to control your speaker, to control whatever that you would like to control by simply pointing at that. And that's another way of connecting with each other. It's a very low cost, almost a no cost to edit on that technology. I'm just using these 2 examples to show you there are many, many new technologies that are coming on to the Internet of Things. So interoperability, cost point, becomes a challenging. Now, since I'm in charge of R&D, I've got to show something very technical to show that I'm actually in the nose of what I'm talking about. So this is the range. So in other words, that how far this technology can actually control and connect with each other. And then this is the position, right? So you can see the NFC, it has the precision of 1 centimeter. Very good. But you have to get into 1 centimeter in order to connect. So the Bluetooth is very good. It has the range of 10 meters, but you can only have the resolution of 1 meter. Not good enough. So ultrasound, the visual line, you can have the range of 10 meters or even a little bit longer, but you're going to have the resolution roughly about 1 centimeter. I'm sure that new technology is also going to come on board and then to make this even better. So key takeaways. Actually, this is a fancy slide that marketing folks that did it for me. You don't have to remember all that. All you have to remember is that security is critical for you. Now, I want to leave you with this. Exactly how we connect with each other is critical. And the human-to-human interface is what we call analog interface. And this is what the NXP is representing. And then lots of people say, hey, digital is really going to be ruining the world and with everything. Sorry, ARM. But when you're talking about the real-time communication, we're talking about human face, and you have to convert that into analog signals. So I'm just want to leave you with this, is that we have to learn from the nature as well. As I give you all these challenges, is that how do you connect with each other within microsecond? And it has to be connected every time. And then when you are not trying to break it off, the connection stayed on. And also very secure. Nobody else can connect with you. That we can learn from this. This is actually a bird. You can see huge quantity of birds that are connected to each other. I would call that B2B. That's a bird to bird. How do they connect with each other? How do they know what direction they're flying? All right? And then also that we have another example is in the ocean. It's not face to face. We call that fish to fish. And then some of those fishes, and the scoop of fishes can actually shape up as a big fish in order to scare the shark away. It's happening. And how do they communicate with each other? How do they know that which fish should be where? They don't rehearse. How do they communicate with each other? I mean, how can they communicate so naturally, so efficiently, so reliably? So this is something we can also learn. And then the other one is that is a little bit similar to human, that is E to E, the elephant to elephant. A little bit bigger, but nevertheless, they communicate very well, and they move in things. And then probably the most stupid way of connecting with each other is called the C to C, is a car-to-car communication. But we are still at the infancy of IoT. I'm sure we'll become ever more intelligent, and C2C eventually will beat B2B and F to F. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wang. 我们再次感谢王海王博士为我们带来精彩的演出。